The deal which Epstein took allowed him to plead guilty to state charges. He got work release and evaded a potential life sentence. He got a slap on the wrist in a non-prosecution deal and let go.
Many of the things that are being suppressed by two judges in Manhattan, and they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims.
If it's not that big of a deal and everything's already public already, then just release the records. There's not much else to cry about in terms of our demands. A new exclusive report from the Rolling Stone, which is a questionable publication, of course, but today revealing some interesting information, explain that multiple federal law enforcement officials who spoke with the Rolling Stone say that Epstein hired private investigators to follow, intimidate, and surveil the FBI. FBI is investigating you. In Epstein land, Epstein investigates you. And he did this for quite some time. Here's the report. Over from the Rolling Stone. They explain. Multiple federal law enforcement officials who spoke with us on condition of anonymity say that Epstein hired private investigators to follow, intimidate, and surveil FBI special agent investigations into allegations of underage intercourse. These new allegations about the pressure exerted on the FBI come as all of this is blowing up in the administration. And there's more. Trump officials confessed last week that the DOJ's unwillingness to further release the documents would inflame an already impatient and riled up base. Somebody told the Rolling Stone from the Trump administration, they say, they're going to be so mad at us, talking about us, saying Trump's pledge to release the list was an oft-repeated campaign promise, kind of, and it was picked up and amplified by a bunch of social media people like Tim Pool and Laura Loomer. The Justice Department attempted to dispel the conspiracy theories. They released 11 hours of footage, but it was missing a minute, and that actual minute looks like it's more than just 1 minute. But Trump has encouraged people to move on with this. Now, there is a lot of tension here, and in 2018, 1 year after Alexander Acosta was appointed as Trump's Secretary of Labor, the Miami Herald began publishing a sweeping series of investigations, alleging that Acosta had engineered an unprecedented and maybe even illegal plea deal for Epstein, using emails between Acosta and Epstein's attorneys to detail how a confounding light sentence came to pass for abusing minors, which is usually prison, mandatory. Why can't we see all of those emails? Like, just give us the full record of the emails between Acosta, the DOJ, and the defense attorneys that came to this rigged deal. The deal which Epstein took allowed him to plead guilty to state charges. He got work release and evaded a potential life sentence. He got a slap on the wrist in a non-prosecution deal and let go. He also secured a non-prosecution agreement that barred victims from bringing claims, and it shielded his co-conspirators from prosecution. It was the most insane deal ever. After the Herald's report, congressional pressure and public discontent led to Acosta resigning from his post, and the DOJ opened an investigation into this. According to a report, special agents assigned to investigate this were repeatedly frustrated with Maine justices' refusal to arrest and prosecute the now deceased criminal. How come? The FBI, quote, had wanted to arrest Epstein in the Virgin Islands during a beauty pageant because he was the judge down there. It's like, I'll take that one and that one. The case agent recalled that she and her case agent were disappointed with the decision, and they were extremely upset about it. But like, well, he's intelligence, CIA, Mossad. The investigators also detail how this person, Maria Villafana, the assistant U.S. attorney overseeing the prosecution, was blocked from moving forward with the planned arrest of Epstein. She had coordinated with the FBI to take him into custody in May 2007, and the FBI had scheduled the press conference for the same day. But according to the DOJ report, DOJ managers in Miami prevented her from moving forward with that plan. Why? In the many months that followed, Epstein's legal team would chip away at their effort to seek justice, and they investigated the officials' family members in an attempt to surface conflicts of interest. They filed legal briefs from world-renowned legal experts attempting to undermine the charges, and they appealed to top DOJ officials in Washington to throw their cases out, okay? Epstein had heavy artillery come in to support him, but the intimidation did not stop there. As part of its series on Epstein, they reported that Epstein hired private investigators to tail and to investigate the Palm Beach police officers, okay? Go after the cops who first brought Epstein to the attention of the FBI. One of them was the police chief called Michael Reiter. Police reports show that Epstein's private investigators attempted to conduct interviews while posing as cops, that they picked through Reiter, the chief of police, trash in search of dirt to discredit the chief of police, and that the private investigators were accused of following the girls and their families. But this was just boring, sordid detail stuff that Epstein was involved in. It had nothing really interesting there, and it wasn't much broader than this. In one one case, the father of one girl claimed he was run off the road by a private investigator. Two law enforcement officials who spoke with Rolling Stone confirmed the same tactics were used against FBI special agents that were investigating Epstein. They put surveillance on them. They tailed them. They pulled their trash. They hired private investigators to investigate the investigators, one official said, adding that a special agent eventually moved to a gated community because they were constantly being harassed by Epstein. Epstein's efforts to kill the investigation were so extreme that prosecutors attempted to bring obstruction of justice charges against him during the first prosecution, but they didn't. They made a plea deal with him and he left. The DOJ's report records that Villafana had assembled evidence to bring 2 federal obstruction charges against him. Should release that. At one point, Villafana wrote after months of stonewalling, "I'm left with victims and agents all demanding to know why we aren't presenting an indictment. It's because Epstein is scaring the hell out of the cops." A special agent working the Epstein case also described his efforts to delay the eventual plea deal that barred victims from seeking any reprieve. Despite his efforts to convince prosecutors to hold out on giving Epstein a sweetheart deal and granting him immunity, the agent says he told DOJ investigators that his effort was pushed under the rug. Senior officials said leave him alone. Similar sentiment happened with Virginia Gouveia, who in 2016 testified under oath that one of the original FBI agents that interviewed her in 2006 told her 5 years later that he wanted to continue investigating Epstein, but his hands were tied by, quote, the chain of command. In addition to these long-standing discrepancies, questions remain about his 2018 townhouse in Manhattan and the voluminous records that were seized there. Those records remained under seal. And remember, Pam Bondi was like, we have 300 gigabytes. We're like, we saw 300 DVDs there, at least. Maybe Blu-rays too. Those records remain under seal, and current DOJ leadership signaled in a memo last week that they will make no further effort to give any more documents or evidence. You're done. As tensions flared through the DOJ last week, Sigrid McCauley, a lawyer from multiple Epstein victims, told News Nation, "What's really just astonishing about this recent disclosure from the government is that they know they're sitting on a treasure trove of information and they're not turning it over." They said, "I've worked on these cases for 10 years. There's a plethora of information the public has not been able to see about any of his efforts." The former Palm Beach police chief who first alerted the FBI about their investigation into Epstein was unsurprised to hear FBI agents were intimidated. He says, "This kind of stuff goes on more than people realize. Picking through trash, constant surveillance. Does it surprise me that this happened to FBI agents? Not at all." And so we got more. Alan Dershowitz was the defense attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, and he was out over with Cuomo, ALX over on X. Flip this one for us from the show.
Hiding a client list or anything that the Trump administration could release tonight.
No, there is no client list. There never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers that accuse Jeffrey, that accuse various people of having improper sex. And that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did all the investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by 2 judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed. Now, maybe there is some, but I'm simply not aware of it. And so I think it's important to place the blame where the blame deserves to be placed. The vast majority of people who are in the files, I know them all, I've seen all the names, the vast majority of them have already been disclosed. They're in articles all over the world, they're in books that have been written. So if we got everything, you would be shocked how few names are there that haven't already been disclosed. The media hasn't, by the way,
so then why don't we get it?
Done a good enough job in finding the people who have been disclosed in the public record. So that's that list.
All right, so if it's not that big of a deal and everything's already public already, then just release the records, and there's not much else to cry about in terms of our demands. Now, Matt gave Gaetz says, you know what? Remember Matt Gaetz was going to be the guy who was the attorney general? We wonder how he would handle the Epstein cases, especially if Trump is the one who's giving the orders, right? If Pam comes in, she says, you know what? I'm going to do what Dan and Cash said. We're going to start releasing this stuff. And phase 1, phase 2's coming soon. Phase 3's coming after that. And started the process. And then Trump said, ixnay on the Epstein-a, Amala Bondi, and reversed all of it. Would Matt Gaetz have done the same thing? Would he have been charging hard for disclosure and release and then reverse course? Don't know. But here is what he said on his show.
President Trump never stopped building a business empire, a media empire, a political empire. We believe he has exactly the team to maximize success. Let's start with Pam Bondi. The Attorney General always takes a lot of flack in any administration, but look at what she has accomplished. The Bondi team successfully litigated away the judicial coup of nationwide injunctions.
True.
They did that. They won that for us. They have created the legal infrastructure for highly effective deportations. She's got the cartels self-deporting. She has targeted the criminals and the gang networks. Attorney General Pam Bondi is a star and has our full admiration and support. To those who don't share my enthusiasm, look at how far we've come. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is the reason Hillary Clinton got away with everything. The statute of limitations is passed to hold her accountable. Thanks, Jeff. He got the unceremonious beating he deserved on the way out the door from Senator Tommy Tuberville. After Sessions, we got Bill Barr. AG Barr is the reason legitimate questions about the 2020 election went uninvestigated by the Department of Justice. I personally know of cases Bill Barr shut down that related to voter fraud that could have told us a lot more about the networks and the people who are trying to destabilize our elections and our voting process. You don't think you're getting all the answers you want on Epstein? We never got the answers on an election that resulted in a dementia ward escapee being president for 4 years. After Bill Barr was Jeff Rosen. He was the acting attorney general. He allowed MAGA grandmothers to be hunted like Pam Bondi is hunting MS-13. Pam Bondi is the best attorney general Donald Trump has had by a factor of 10,000. And anyone who disagrees with me is welcome to come on this show and choose their fighter. Which Trump AG would you replace Pam Bondi with? Barr, Sessions,
No.
Rosen?
No.
She's the best, and we appreciate her service. And at the FBI, some have suggested that they aren't keen on cash anymore. Look at where we've been at the FBI. It used to be a dumpster fire. During the prior Trump administration, we had James Comey, we had to deal with Christopher Wray, and now we get Kash Patel. Kash is rounding up actual criminals, not spying on political opponents. That is the reset the FBI needed. I have every confidence that this administration will continue their outstanding work, and that any tension that erupts is a consequence of strong voices and deep love of country.
And Gaetz delivers, I think, some good context and a nice frame. Politics is not 100%. Very hard to score A+ on every category all the time. There's going to be stuff that we're happy about, stuff that we're unhappy about, and some stuff we'll have disagreements and judgment calls and say, well, we might have handled that differently, but we'll be here encouraging progress, and we want the country to improve. And so I think as long as we're, acting out of good faith, I think we can criticize and support at the same time in the interest of the country. And that's exactly what we'll be doing here, keeping in mind the administration is still accomplishing a lot, as Matt Gaetz articulated here. So, my friends, we'll be here continuing to cover it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do.